This program is brought to you by Emory University.
Is the microphone on? Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. I'm Lynn Huffer, Chair of the Department of Women's Studies here at Emory, and I'm thrilled to present to you the 2010 Emory Women's History Month Keynote Address by Zainab Salbi, today on March 1st, which is the first day of Women's History Month. And I want to start by acknowledging the many partners who have made this event possible, and then introduce our wonderful speaker. So let me begin my thank yous by recognizing Alicia Frank, the Luminary Series, and the Provost's Office, whose financial and institutional support made this event possible. I also want to acknowledge Donna Yarbrough, the Director of the Center for Women, as well as Sasha Smith and Rosalind Sledge, also from the Center, all of whom have worked very hard to bring this event together. And I also want to thank my assistant in Women's Studies, Berkey Abreu. This special Women's History Month keynote address is part of an annual series co-sponsored by Women's Studies and the Emory Center for Women, known as the Jessica Glasser Memorial Lecture, with support from the recently created Allie P. Crown Endowment on Women's Roles in Culture and Society. So in that context, I want to pay tribute to two very important people. The first is Mr. Richard Glasser, whose generosity led to the creation of the Jessica Glasser Memorial Lecture Fund, inaugurated in 1998 in memory of Mr. Glasser's daughter, Jessica. Jessica Glasser graduated from Emory with high honors in women's studies and political science in 1996. She was a very active participant and leader in the Women's Studies program, as well as in numerous other organizations working for social justice. Shortly after graduation and on her way to law school, Jessica was killed in a tragic auto accident. Thanks to generous donations from her family and their friends, this lecture series honors Jessica's memory with high-profile lectures co-sponsored by the Center for Women that highlight the intersecting themes of gender, race, class, feminism, the law, and social justice. Please join me in recognizing Richard and Martha Glasser, who have flown in from Florida to be with us this afternoon. And then the second of these gifts is, as I mentioned, the new Allie P. Crown Endowment on Women's Roles in Culture and Society. The advisory board of the Center for Women, representing numerous donors, presented this endowment to Emory in 2008 in recognition of retired Center for Women director Allie Crown for her years of service, leadership, and commitment to women at Emory. Allie, will you please stand and be recognized? I also want to give a special thanks to the many additional co-sponsors who have made this event possible. They are the President's Commission on the Status of Women at Emory, the Institute of Developing Nations, the Laney Graduate School, and the Office of Community and Diversity. I also want to thank Karis Books, who are providing copies of Ms. Salvi's books for purchase this afternoon. Please give our co-sponsors a round of applause. And before I introduce our speaker, I'd just like to remind you that personal cameras and other recording devices should not be used during the program. And also, please be sure to turn off all electronic gadgets. And now for our speaker. Zainab Salbi is co-founder and CEO of Women for Women International, a grassroots international humanitarian and development organization helping women survivors of war rebuild their lives, families, and communities. They have a website, womenforwomen.org, which I encourage you to consult. And for those of you who are a little more media savvy, you can also follow Ms. Salbi on Twitter as she works relentlessly around the world on behalf of women whose lives have been fractured and disrupted by war. In fact, today I noticed she had a tweet about speaking at Emory. Originally from Iraq and a survivor of war herself, Ms. Salbi and Amjad Attallah founded Women for Women International in 1993 as a response to the trauma women endured during the Balkan Wars. Built on the belief that stronger women build stronger nations, this is an organization of enormous scope. Since its founding in 1993, Women for Women International has reached 93,000 women, affecting 5.3 million family and community members. Let me just give you a taste of the numerous ways in which Ms. Salbi's work on behalf of women has been recognized by the international community. She has been honored by former President Bill Clinton for her work in Bosnia and Herzegovina and was named Time Magazine's Innovator of the Month in 2005 for her trailblazing work as a philanthropist. In 2007, she was named as a young global leader for the World Economic Forum. She serves on the advisory boards of countless international human rights organizations. She and her work have been featured, I believe it's 7 times on the Oprah Winfrey Show, more now, 10 times on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and in many other national and international media outlets, from the New York Times to the Washington Post and around the world. Ms. Salbi is not only an activist, but also a writer. She is the author of a best-selling 2005 memoir, Between Two Worlds: Escape from Tyranny, Growing Up in the Shadow of Saddam, an account of her life within Iraq's elite society and the hold that Hussein had over her family. In 2006, she published a second book, The Other Side of War: Women's Stories of Survival and Hope, which chronicles the stories of women who overcome the horrors of war to rebuild their families and countries. I also wanted to let you know that we will have copies of the second book, The Other Side of War, for sale following the lecture. And the first book, Between Two Worlds, was supposed to be here, but it got caught in a snowstorm. So for those of you who would like to order copies of Between Two Worlds, you will be able to do so following the lecture. And Ms. Salbi will also be available to sign copies of people's books. Women for Women International was the 2006 recipient of the Conrad and Hilton Humanitarian Prize, the first women's organization to receive this honor. The $1.5 million prize is the largest humanitarian award in the world. Ms. Salbi earned a master's degree in development studies from the London School of Economics and Political Science in 2001 and a bachelor's degree in sociology and women's studies from George Mason University in 1996. Ms. Salbi will speak for about 25 minutes, and then we will open the floor to questions and answers, and we want to allow plenty of time for exchange, and we'll have 2 microphones placed in the aisles for you to address your questions to Ms. Salbi. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Zainab Salbi.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you, and particularly in this day, because it's, as you mentioned earlier, it's the first day of Women's Month. But this year marks the 100 years anniversary of International Women's Day, a day where outside of America it's actually the only day for women. There's no Mother Day, Women's Day kind of thing. It's the main important day. So I think it's a very important time. It's an important time for me personally and professionally it's a time for reflection to see how far we have come and where do we have to go. And I think we have come a long way, a long, long way. Thinking of myself, I have come from my grandmother who was married at the age of 13, to my mother who graduated from college and later got married, to me who not only graduated from college but had my master's degree, and then I got